What if I told you that Formula One's most dominant driver, Max Verstappen, is on the verge of walking away from it all? Yes, you heard that right, retirement. Just when you think his racing career couldn't get any more dramatic, Verstappen drops a bombshell. But why would a three-time world champion, someone at the very pinnacle of motorsport, even consider hanging up his helmet so soon? The answer lies in a growing conflict between Max and the very organization that governs the sport, the FIA. Over the past few months, tensions have been rising, and now, with increasing penalties and a strict policy against swearing, Max is questioning whether the joy he once found in Formula One is being replaced by needless frustrations. Could we be witnessing the final laps of Verstappen's illustrious career? Stay tuned as we unravel the story behind Max's possible early exit, the controversies surrounding the FIA, and what this means for the future of Formula One. In the last few days, Max Verstappen has managed to turn the Formula One world upside down, not just with his racing skills, but with the shocking possibility of an early retirement. His frustrations stem from a penalty handed down by the FIA after he was accused of using foul language during a press conference. For a man who spent his entire career winning, you would think that now would be the time to enjoy the fruits of his labor. But instead, Verstappen feels trapped in a series of battles with the very institution that should be supporting him. The penalty, combined with the increasing number of sprint races, seems to have pushed Max to a breaking point. He's not the only driver who's been vocal about the strict rules on swearing, but he's definitely been the loudest. The FIA's policies have made Max feel like he's walking on eggshells, and instead of savoring his victories, he's questioning whether continuing in the sport is even worth the trouble. But here's the real question: if Max, arguably one of the greatest drivers of this generation, feels this way, what does it mean for other young stars? Could they follow suit and reconsider their future in Formula One? Verstappen's frustrations may just be the tip of the iceberg, and the FIA will need to tread carefully if they want to avoid pushing more drivers to their limits, or worse, out of the sport altogether. Max Verstappen's ongoing struggle with the FIA has many fans and experts speculating about the future of his Formula One career. The pressure is mounting and Max feels like the sport is no longer fun, despite his undeniable success. The constant hurdles, from press penalties to increased sprint races, have taken a toll on his enjoyment. He's not just competing against other drivers anymore, it feels like he's up against the governing body itself. And in a sport where emotions run high, it's easy to let an expletive slip during the heat of the moment. But for Verstappen, this isn't about bad language, it's about the FIA's refusal to allow drivers to be their true selves on and off the track. Max's frustration became even more evident when he decided to boycott the FIA's press conference, opting instead to answer questions outside to a crowd of reporters. Among those questions, one stood out: could these decisions by the FIA, particularly their stance on language, influence the future of young drivers in Formula One? Max didn't hold back. He admitted that such restrictions definitely play a role in his thoughts about retiring early. Of course, he said, "These things decide my future too. You can't be yourself anymore, and that's exhausting. Sure, winning races is great, but I've already done that. Now I just want to enjoy it." Max's words speak volumes, not just about his own career, but about the state of Formula One as a whole. When a champion like him starts talking about retirement because of off-track issues, it's a wake-up call for the entire sport. Max Verstappen's comments have sent shockwaves through the F1 community, leading many to wonder if we're truly on the brink of losing one of the sport's greatest talents. Fans are already expressing outrage at the possibility, while others understand that the frustrations Max is dealing with could push any driver to the edge. After all, Formula One isn't just about driving fast and winning championships, it's also about dealing with immense pressure, constant scrutiny, and strict regulations. Verstappen, who has long dominated the sport, is now debating whether it is worthwhile to carry on when pointless controversies are stealing the fun away. Interestingly, it's not just the fans who are concerned. Max has garnered immense support from his fellow drivers, many of whom share his frustration with the FIA's handling of penalties. In fact, the shared WhatsApp group of F1 drivers went into an uproar after Max's penalty, with many discussing the fairness of the FIA's decision. Could the organization penalize every driver on the grid for using foul language under the heat of adrenaline? The overwhelming support Max received from his peers is a clear indication that he's not alone in this battle. But Verstappen's boycott of the official FIA press conferences, Holding his own briefings at Red Bull's hospitality area instead has only further fueled the debate. His short, sarcastic answers to FIA-related questions reveal just how deep his frustration runs. When asked why he wasn't participating in the official press events, Max's response was as biting as it was revealing. Why should I give full answers when it's obvious that anything I say might get me fined or penalized? Max Verstappen's sarcastic and blunt responses have opened up a broader discussion in the F1 paddock about how much freedom drivers really have. The pressure to perform, combined with restrictions on even their words, has many questioning whether the sport is losing its raw emotion. During the Singapore Grand Prix, this debate reached a new level when rookie driver Oscar Piastri jokingly asked fellow driver Lando Norris how he managed to avoid hitting a barrier without using any foul language. What initially seemed to be a humorous exchange quickly revealed a more serious problem. Is it reasonable to expect drivers in a sport where there is intense competition and adrenaline to always control their emotions? For Max, this is more than just a matter of language. The constant monitoring and broadcasting of every radio conversation, every outburst, have become a source of frustration. Everyone swears. Max said, pointing out that other sports don't have microphones attached to players during high-stress moments. Of course, abuse is different, but a lot of what gets broadcast is just heat of the moment stuff. For Max, it's about letting drivers express themselves authentically, without fear of punishment. He believes that too much focus is being placed on what drivers say in the heat of the moment, rather than on their actual performances on the track. Verstappen even proposed a solution: stop broadcasting every radio exchange. He argued that much of the controversy could be avoided if not every word said during a race was sent out to millions of viewers. But for the FIA, limiting this kind of broadcast is not an option. Max's suggestion to limit the broadcast of radio conversations may seem like a simple solution, but the FIA has a different perspective. According to them, broadcasting the radio exchanges between drivers and their teams is essential for fans. It offers a deeper connection to the race, giving viewers insight into everything from tire degradation to car stability, even the strategies employed by the teams. To the FIA, taking away these radio messages would strip the sport of valuable information, reducing the excitement and transparency that fans have come to love. In response to Max's frustrations, FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem has been clear: while they've increased the amount of radio communication broadcasted for entertainment purposes, there are still rules in place, and those rules need to be respected. He even drew a comparison to other forms of entertainment, like rap music, where foul language is far more common and accepted. "We're not rappers," Ben Sulayem said. "In motorsport, we have rules and those rules are there to be followed." But this comparison sparked yet another controversy, especially with drivers like Lewis Hamilton, who viewed the comment as racially insensitive. Hamilton didn't shy away from criticizing the FIA's stance, pointing out that while emotions can get the best of drivers during races, the focus should remain on their performance, not their language. Verstappen, meanwhile, continues to push for a more authentic experience for drivers, free from the constant threat of penalties for minor slip-ups. For him, it's about letting the drivers be themselves on and off the track, without fear of being reprimanded for every word spoken in the heat of competition. The backlash to Ben Sulayem's comments was swift, especially from Hamilton, who felt the FIA president's remarks had racist undertones. Hamilton, one of the most vocal advocates for diversity in the sport, highlighted how the comparison to rappers seemed to target a specific group. Given that the majority of rappers are black, he said, it was very stereotypical, and he took issue with Ben Sulayem's comparison. Hamilton's critique wasn't just about the language issue, it was about how the FIA handles sensitive topics and its treatment of the driver's personal expression. Hamilton also pointed out that, as a young driver, he made many of the same mistakes speaking out of turn, letting emotions run high, but over time, he learned the value of thinking before speaking. He believes that, as drivers mature, they naturally develop more control over their words, but it's unrealistic to expect them to always be perfect, especially in such a high-stakes environment. At 22, I didn't think about how many people, including kids, were listening. I just said what came to mind, Hamilton explained. He added that Max and other drivers are likely to go through similar phases as they grow older, learning to manage their words better. However, the issue at hand isn't just about language, it's about the growing friction between drivers and the FIA. Max in particular feels that off-track politics and penalties are obscuring the joy of racing. And while his frustrations have resonated with many, it's clear that this debate is far from over. Max Verstappen isn't the only one feeling the weight of FIA's rules. Other drivers, like Lando Norris, have spoken up about how the constant scrutiny over language and behavior could strip Formula One of its raw, emotional core. While Norris isn't known for using foul language as much as some of his peers, he acknowledges that banning certain expressions could harm the authenticity of the sport. "This is pure emotion," he said. "It's part of the sport, and trying to control every word takes away from the intensity we all feel on the track." Formula One is built on competition, passion, and the incredible pressure that comes with it. When drivers are pushed to their limits, their emotions often bubble over. Fans have grown to love the unfiltered moments, the heated radio messages that give them a glimpse of what it's like to be in the driver's seat. But with the FIA cracking down on language, many fear that these authentic, real-time moments may be lost forever. Verstappen's potential early retirement is just one consequence of this growing tension. If the FIA continues to enforce strict language penalties, other drivers may begin to reconsider their future in the sport as well. The question is, will the FIA adapt, or will they risk alienating some of their brightest stars? For Max, the decision to leave would not be an easy one, but the fact that he's even considering it speaks volumes about the current state of the sport. As fans watch this drama unfold, they can't help but wonder, could this really be the beginning of the end for one of the most talented drivers Formula One has ever seen? As the debate around FIA's language rules and penalties continues to grow, Max Verstappen has dropped subtle hints about what the future might hold. In a recent interview, he made it clear that he might not be around in a few years. "When I'm no longer part of the sport," he said with a hint of nostalgia, "I'll be able to look back on all these good times and laugh about them with Ricciardo." This offhand comment raised eyebrows, sparking even more speculation about his early retirement. If Max truly walks away in the near future, it would be a massive loss for the sport and for fans who have watched him rise to the top. But Max's frustrations go beyond the penalties and the language issues. He's also grown tired of the constant scrutiny that comes with being a top driver in Formula One. Every word, every action, and every radio message is dissected by fans and the media. And while Max has been vocal about wanting less broadcasting of the drivers in the moment conversations, the FAA has resisted the idea. They argue that broadcasting driver radio conversations is essential for fan engagement, and without it, viewers would miss out on key insights like tire strategies, car performance, and team dynamics. But for Max, it's just another layer of pressure that makes him question whether staying in the sport is worth it. Despite his growing frustration, Max is still focused on racing and achieving success on the track. But the question remains, how long will that passion last when the off-track issues are starting to overshadow everything he's worked for? Max Verstappen's frustrations have opened the door to a broader conversation about the balance between driver authenticity and the sport's regulations. The three-time world champion has made it clear that while he loves racing, the constant off-track issues are beginning to wear him down. Verstappen, like many other drivers, feels that too much focus is being placed on what happens outside of the race itself. The penalties for using foul language, the endless press obligations, and the increased number of sprint races are all contributing to his growing dissatisfaction. But Max isn't alone in his stance. The growing support from other drivers, both publicly and privately, shows that this is an issue felt across the grid. Whether it's through WhatsApp group chats or post-race interviews, the unity among the drivers has been evident. Even Lewis Hamilton, who has had his share of disagreements with Verstappen, has voiced support for the idea that drivers should be allowed to express themselves without the fear of being penalized for every minor slip-up. For Max, the issue isn't just about swearing or press conferences, it's about the freedom to be himself in a sport that demands perfection both on and off the track. And as he continues to push back against the FIA's decisions, the question lingers: will Formula One change its approach, or will drivers like Verstappen find themselves forced out by the very system that once celebrated them? With all these challenges swirling around, the big question remains: could Max Verstappen really retire early? For a driver who has already achieved so much in such a short time, the idea of walking away before his 30s seems unthinkable. But as Max has said repeatedly, racing is about more than just winning, it's about enjoying the journey, something he feels is being taken away by constant penalties and off-track politics. If Max truly feels that his personality is being stifled and the sport is no longer fun, it's not impossible to imagine him stepping away sooner than anyone expected. The FIA, on the other hand, seems torn between maintaining strict standards and allowing drivers to be themselves. Their rules on language and behavior are meant to uphold professionalism, but in doing so, they may be pushing away the very drivers who make the sport exciting. And as Max continues to voice his frustrations, the FIA will have to decide whether to adapt or risk losing one of the brightest stars Formula One has ever seen. In the end, Max Verstappen's story isn't just about one driver, it's about the future of Formula One itself. Can the sport balance authenticity with its strict rules, or will it become a place where talent like Max is forced to leave? Only time will tell, but one thing is for sure: the world of F1 won't be the same without him. As you reflect on this saga, let us know in the comments below, do you think Max will really retire early, or will the FIA make changes to keep him in the sport? And don't forget to check out the next video on your screen to stay updated on everything happening in the world of Formula One. So what do you think? Will Max Verstappen really retire early, or will the FIA step in and make changes? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And before you go, don't forget to check out the next video on your screen to stay updated on all the latest Formula One news.